Today I'm here with Coach Matt Quattrone. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
So Coach Quattrone and I, we've indirectly known each other for a pretty long time. When I was getting recruited to play college football, his dad, who's at Dickinson College, he recruited me. So known the family for a long time. He's a pretty successful young coach as the offensive coordinator and strength and conditioning coordinator at Franklin and Marshall College, which is out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So to get things started, Matt, can you just share with the audience about your career and how you've ultimately gotten involved in your current role?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, again, want to reiterate thanks for having me on here and touch on the family connection. I know obviously my dad recruited you, but I grew up watching your cousin Paul Titchenell play and play at a really high level at Dickinson College back in my childhood. So and then you obviously went to Gettysburg and I went to McDaniel College. So nothing better than a couple Centennial guys getting together to talk a little ball. But as far as my career, much like you, I'm sure, like I came from a football family. My dad was a defensive coordinator at Dickinson College for practically my entire life. So I got to grow up around it and kind of see the meaning and the value in coaching and making those connections with your players and with their families and all that comes with it. So that immediately piqued my interest as just a young kid, kind of in high school even, that I might want to pursue this as a career. Flash forward to college, play 4 years at McDaniel College down in Westminster, Maryland. And upon graduation was offered a graduate assistantship there. So I was able to coach there for 2 years, kind of get my feet wet, see what college coaching was all about while getting an education and a master's degree paid for. After that, I actually returned to my hometown. I worked at Dickinson College under Brad Fordyce for 4 years, only 2 seasons with COVID and all of that, but learned a ton there. It was great to be back in my hometown and kind of walk in the footsteps that my dad had laid out in front of me and kind of see what it was to really, really get into college coaching with a little bit more responsibility and things to do, for lack of a better term. And then after those 4 years, when Coach Blumenauer or Tom Blumenauer was hired here at Franklin or Marshall, I applied. I was actually hired as the defensive line coach here in the 2 springs ago. And when our offensive coordinator, Dan Hunt, left to go to Lehigh, Coach Blue came to me with a proposition, said, "Hey, would you be interested in being our offensive coordinator?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, Coach. If you believe I can get it done." And him, what a great mentor he has been in this process and giving me this opportunity. So probably a shorter career. Only been at 3 schools, but I've been very fortunate to work for some great people, some smart people that are organized and know how to go about this the right way. So it's been a blast for these 6 or 7 years here to getting started.
Being a younger guy yourself, I'm sure it's a huge honor to be called on to serve as the offensive coordinator and strength and conditioning guys. So can you talk about what some of those differences have been, coming from and you came from a defensive background, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I played defense my whole life. Coach defense. This actually was my first year as our offense coordinator. It's my first year ever like truly coaching offense. Which again, that I think that speaks to Coach Blumenauer and like the kind of guy he is and the belief and the empowerment that he gives his staff and the people around him. To have that is
Definitely.
amazing.
What was that experience like transitioning to the defense side of the ball, and then obviously being this is your first season? I'm sure obviously you guys were very successful this year, and for the audience watching, Franklin and Marshall College, they went 9-1 in conference. Correct.
This past year, we were, I think, 3-3 in conference. We finished the year at 8-3.
Yeah, so 8-3 overall. So still a very successful season. So yeah, can you just talk about what that first year was like as the OC?
It was a lot for sure. I can't say I was 100% prepared, but I don't think anyone is truly 100% prepared taking on a big role like that. You just have to kind of jump into the fire and get to work. So it was a lot for sure. I was promoted in February of last year by Coach Blumenauer and immediately went to work and meeting with him and talking with our old offensive staff and kind of just learning how to be an offensive coach. So it was a journey for sure. Spring ball was a lot of learning pains and growing pains and all those kind of things, kind of getting acclimated to how we do things and how to structure a meeting, how to structure a practice, how to structure game planning, and all of that from an offensive perspective, because all of that was foreign to me
Right.
before we're jumping over here. So spent a lot of time in Coach Blue's office for sure. Spent a lot of time on the phone, doing a lot of research on my own, and then a lot of time in this office just kind of workshopping things. Then you get to the summer, and it's all about recruiting. But every second that we could get, free time wise, Coach Blue and I would sit down and talk more offense, and got to the point where when we reached training camp, he kind of let me have control of the wheel, and took that from there. And with a big help from him and our two offensive assistants, John Rooney and Ryan Hunt, had some success, and it was a great experience. Challenging for sure, but very rewarding in the sense that I got to meet each challenge head on, and break it down and then tackle it in our own way. So it was a blast. Pairing that with strength and conditioning was also great, to be able to still be the strength coach, but still be the offensive coordinator, but also still operate as a strength coach, and know all of our players as opposed to just one side of the ball was a lot of fun for sure.
And I'm sure, having that defensive background, I'm sure now, having this year under your belt as an offensive guy, you just have a greater knowledge for the game, I'm sure. And going beyond the X's and O's, can you talk about mindset and what that's meant for you, making that transition, and how, and also just for the audience too, like Matt, he's like a super positive guy, and I haven't seen you coach, but seem to be very passionate about everything. So yeah, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, so one of my favorite memories from coming over to the offensive side of the ball was sitting with Coach Blumenauer on one of my first days, and him making me promise him, he's like, you cannot let this position make you a jerk. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm, as you said, I'd like to think myself as a pretty positive guy, pretty energetic guy that focuses on that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, it's different, because he played defense in college as well. He's coached defense. He's coached all over. So he's like, it's not like defense where, as you might be out of your gap at times, right? But a Herculean effort or a guy that's trying really hard might cover that up. So mindset on defense is detail oriented. Everything's always detail oriented, but you put a premium on a ton of effort, right? And I think everybody does. But on offense, it's frustrating to see, or was frustrating early on, to be like, man, if one minor thing goes wrong throughout the course of pre-snap, during the play, post-snap, whatever, like the whole operation slows down and bogs down, and it becomes clanky, and things get hard. So I would say, going from defense to offense, the pacing, the level to detail, and how you're teaching, how you're speaking, really, really, really ramped up. And really how you're presenting and categorizing and organizing everything as well was different for me. Defense, I don't want to say it was simple. Defense is far from simple, but offensively, it was a lot different, I should say, in the way that you have to be detailed in how you're presenting your information.
For sure.
So if that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. And then communication wise, as a, not too far gone from actually playing and being a young guy yourself, what's that been like communicating with players and having like a high level role within your program?
I think it's great. Honestly, and I think our kids respond to it well, because I am a younger guy. I get it. I'm a more closely related to them than I am some other coaches. So I can see things through their lens, and it allows me to kind of communicate with them in a more personal way, both in a football sense and in just a everyday life sense. And I think the kids respond to that. I think they like that they can come and talk to me as just a normal person, as well as a football coach. So, yeah, I definitely think that has helped more than it has hurt in terms of interacting with our kids, and kind of getting where they're coming from, and empowering them to have some say in what we do as well.
Working with guys that were on the younger side, like as a player, like it's always great to know, somebody has your best interest in mind. And obviously most coaches do have that. And just having that close age proximity is is another huge thing because you were pretty much in their shoes, although at a different Centennial school. You know what it's like to play Division III football, and you have those experiences that a lot of guys who didn't play D3 like don't necessarily have. So, that's I'm sure a huge.
Yeah, I think they can. I think they like that. I can relate to like having to go to class all day, from 8 to 4, and then and somewhere in there's a position meeting, and then you go from practice from 4 to 6, and then your dinner 6:30 to 7, and right into that. And that's any level of college football, but Division III is it can present its own challenges. And without the use of scholarships, like a lot of Division III football players can get involved in other sports or other clubs and things like that. So I think our entire staff, starting from the top down, Coach Blue has done a great job of cultivating a culture that is supportive of that and really understands and values the small college experience. Our entire staff played small college football, so we get it, and we understand the value it has for these guys as players for sure, but even more so, like how is it going to develop them as a young man? We're always talking, even me as at a younger age, we're talking to our guys about how football and going to college and playing small college football is going to make them a better person and make them a better employee one day, and then a better boss and husband and father and all of those things. So I think the kids do. I think the kids like that because they see not necessarily me, but like Coach Blue is a Division III football player as well, who has done a very good job for himself and has been very successful everywhere he's been, and is a great husband and a great father and all those. So to see like, wow, like this stuff does actually pay off if you do it the right way, I think increases the buy-in and the overall culture of the program tremendously.
One of the last questions I always ask is, what advice would you give your younger self? And for a lot of guys, that's, 20, 30 years ago when they're just getting
Yeah.
started. But, for you, it's recent. So, if you had to go back to like 3, 4 years ago, what do you know now that you wish that you knew at that point?
That, like don't be afraid to take some risks, man. Like I said, like if you would ask me 3 years ago as a defensive backs coach at Dickinson College, if I would even entertain an offensive coordinator position, I'd probably tell you no, and not because I'm not confident in my abilities, more so in that I'm scared or I'm a little nervous that I might fail. To hell with that, man, because nobody's truly ready for the positions that are going to make them successful until they do it. And I think the biggest advice is do your research and surround yourself with great people who love football, but see the value more in that first part. Great people that love to work hard, that also have chosen football or coaching football or playing football or whatever as their career. If you can do that, there's no limit to what you can do in terms of coaching, offense, defense, coordinator, strength and conditioning. Be willing to take those risks. Be willing to move if you have to, and you're able to. I think those are, don't put yourself in a box. I think those are things I would tell myself. If I 3, 4 years ago, even maybe 2 years ago, when I got here. I got here as a defensive backs coach. Very quickly became a defensive line coach. Within a year, was an offensive coordinator. And I think as a younger guy, I would never have even dreamed of taking those risks. And it's paid off so far. Hopefully it continues to pay off. We continue to do things the right way, but I definitely think taking risks and believing in yourself is, as cliche as that sounds, is one of the most true things that you can do for yourself in this profession.
Yeah, 100% agree, Matt. Thanks again for sharing today. Really appreciate all your time. And best of luck on the recruiting trail and this all season.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and best of luck to you guys at Coach Tools and everyone else out there, man. So take care.
Thanks.
Go Dips. Go
Yes,
Diplomats,
sir.
man.